Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know, I'm Courtney Schwan. I'm a professional volleyball player and I am a University of Washington alumni. Boo. Move that up a little bit. There we go. A little better. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about the differences between collegiate level and professional. I'm gonna get comfortable here. Okay. Okay, so first off, job versus paying tuition. So in college, your schooling is your priority. It's called a student athlete. My parents made it very clear to me that it was student first, athlete second. If you don't perform well on the schooling end, then you don't even get to perform in the gym. Because you aren't eligible. So that's definitely the priority in college. But when you get to pro, that's your job. That's what you're getting paid to do. You're getting paid to play. So playing is the #1 priority. Okay, so next is staying fit on your own. The biggest thing in college is that you have such a strict schedule and where you have access to a nutritionist even. But usually for a professional, as far as my experiences go, we have not had any nutritionists. It is on you to make sure that you're eating correctly in order to prep you for a game. So like pre-game meals are very important, and the way that you're eating in between practices each day. How you fuel your body is totally 100% part of your job. The other thing that goes along with that piece of staying fit on your own and eating well and making sure that you're ready to go is there is an off season of about 3.5 months, I think. 3.5 months? 3 months? I don't know. But where you are home, you're alone, you're like, you gotta figure all that stuff out on your own. You gotta be working out even though you have that whole time off. And there's not many jobs where you just get 3 months off in a row. Like, you don't just get summer off for many jobs. In college, there's usually like summer school and you're training while you're still in the summer, and for a professional, you have to take care of that stuff all on your own. Coaches aren't gonna check in all the time. You don't know possibly where you're gonna play next year, so coaches aren't gonna check in until you've decided to sign with that team, and then they're like, okay, well, but what have you been doing to stay in shape over the summer? Or like, have you been playing volleyball? And what makes that easier too is if you stay in contact with your weight trainers from college, or if you know any personal trainers who have become trainers out of college. Okay, so next would be that college experience is almost like a family experience. Like, you're there for 4 years, you get to know those girls, they're gonna be some of your best friends for the rest of your life. And I'm not saying that you don't make those types of connections when you're overseas, but there's not as many of them. Like, you're not gonna be as good friends with every single one of your teammates like you were in college, or as my experience allowed me to be. So going off of that, for example, coaches aren't always going to be concerned about your personal life. They're not going to be concerned about your family. They're not going to be concerned about your experience. Like, that's not their job. Their job is to make sure that you're doing your job. You're performing the way that you're supposed to be. As long as you're doing that, the rest of the stuff isn't as important. And again, this has been my experience. Maybe some coaches care more or less. In general, that's not their job. That's not what they're there to do. And in college, you get a little bit more of a family-oriented vibe, and the college coaches want you to get to know one another and it to be such a culture where it's different when you go pro. Also going off of that with your teammates, and I talked earlier about how it's a job versus paying tuition. So in college, your teammates can be your best friends, they can hold you accountable, like all of these things. But when you get to pro, it's kind of a switched mindset where sometimes your teammates can have an agenda, like they're trying to get the next best job offer that they can the next season. So they're there to perform, and that's what they're there for. So maybe they're not there to make friends. Again, I'm not saying that you won't click with some of your teammates when you're over here, or you might have the best time and love all of your teammates. Like, I'm not saying that it's not possible, because like I've made some amazing friends. It can happen where some of your teammates are there just to do a job. And as long as they're doing that job, that's all that matters. In college, too, your coaches, they want you to get better mentally, technically, physically, all of those things. As for professional, they're like, as long as you're doing the system and you're scoring and you're doing the job that we need you to do, then like you're set. We're not gonna keep making you try to get better. That's up to you. So now leading into the next thing, just piggyback off of each other, is that you have to hold yourself 100% accountable, because no one else is gonna do it. In college, again, with the family aspect, being able to hold each other accountable. Like, I had girls in college who would get on me if I wasn't doing well, or if I didn't have a great pass or something. They'd be like, hey, you need to do better, like, and I know you can do better. Whereas in pro, they might not know your top level. They might not know you're 100%. Only you know that, and you have to hold yourself accountable, because a lot of the teammates here, they might not know you well enough to be like, hey, like, I need to hold you accountable here. Or in my eyes, like, you should be giving 100% all of the time. And when you give 100%, it's easier to tell somebody else, like, hey, like, you gotta get the tip. Like, if you're doing 100% and somebody else isn't, I would respect somebody who's going 100% telling me that I need to go harder, if that makes sense. Okay, here's a big one too. In college, you're not just expendable, you're not just a commodity. Like, they take you as family, they're taking you into the university, like, you're protected by the NCAA, like all of these things, right? When you go pro, you're expendable, you're a commodity. I have had girls tell me stories of being worked to death in certain countries just so that they would quit, so that the teams are trying to get them out of their contract. When I was in Italy, I got pulled into a meeting halfway through the season, and they were like, we don't really want you anymore. We want to pay you less, or we want you to leave. And I, at the time, wasn't even playing. And so I was like, okay, I'll just leave. And so I had to find a new team in the middle of that season. It's a job, it's a business. So they look at you as just an employee. And if you're not doing your job, or they don't think you're doing your job, whether you think so or not, they can be like, okay, let's talk about it, and we need something else from you or from somebody else. So yes, you are a commodity, and that's why it's so important to make sure that you're on top of all the little things, such as holding yourself accountable. In college, there are some amazing weightlifting coaches. They've taken so many classes, they're so educated, they know all these things about form and how to make you better and stronger, faster, and all of those things. But what I found in my experience, again, this isn't everyone's experience, but in my experiences, the weightlifting coaches have been just a second coach, and they're just paid to also do the lifting. So they may not have the same education as some of the people that you've had in college. So it is important when you're in college, if you aspire to go pro, to pay attention to the form and maybe some of the circuits that they put together, or the exercises that they pair together, so that you know which muscles, and asking questions. Like, even when I'm here, I ask, oh, what is this doing for my body? Or like, I know which muscles it's working, but I want to know what the purpose is of pairing one exercise with another. Like, ask questions, don't be afraid to do that. Another thing when you get to pro is there's gonna be a language barrier. Surprise. If you didn't think of that before, now you can. I'm lucky because this year specifically, and last year because I'm with the same team, all of my teammates speak English. So I got lucky. The language barrier. Sometimes your communication with your coaches or teammates who don't speak the same language as you is gonna be minimal. It's just gonna be the necessities. It doesn't need to be more, but you're getting all the information that you need. Time-wise, I think you're spending about the same amount of time every day playing, because like, we still do double days, and we still lift and then practice again and have video and do all of those things. So The video and those things might be different than you're used to in college, especially after getting used to something for 4 years or however many years it was in college, or will be. But you could be used to something one way and they're gonna be completely different another way. And you might think it's more efficient, but you have to deal with the fact that they like it done a specific way. Just change in general can be difficult, but you learn and you grow from it. Way that your practice schedule or your practice plan is written out, it's gonna be different, or it might not even be written out. It might just be made up on the fly, so that's something you have to get used to. It might be repetitive when you get to pro. There might be a lot of the same drills, whereas maybe you did a lot more drills in college. It's gonna be different, and it's cool to learn the differences. Oh, lastly, you have to do your schoolwork and you have to go to class outside of volleyball. So like, you are on top of your schoolwork. You're on top of making sure that you're studying for exams, homework. You might have to take exams when you're on the road, but when you're on the road here, you're only focused on the game. You're only focused on studying the game plan. So all that extra time that you needed to study and you needed to be going to class and doing all of those things, now you have time to yourself. So that's a huge difference. You're gonna be watching so much Netflix, reading more books, learning to cook new recipes, learning to cook in general. Oh, puzzles. Look at this. Doing puzzles. I mean, I'm into photography, so I'll go and do some photography shoots, or if there's a small group practice, maybe I'll go early or late so that I can stay for a different group and I can videotape their practice and make a cool little video for them. You have a lot more time to do with as you please. Yeah. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, please. I'll be making more informational videos and talking about more of my experiences in college, in high school, in professional. And if you have any questions, or drop it in the comments and I'll be sure to answer.